It is the last day of Black History Month, and so for today's episode of About a Song, we will be looking at Lift Every Voice and Sing. In particular, I'll be talking about the use of perspective in songwriting. Who's speaking and who are they speaking to, and how do we use that to keep things interesting and so forth. Lift every voice and sing till heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not a weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. Oh, God of our ears, God of our silent tears, Thou who has brought us thus far on the way, Thou who has by Thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. I'll stop there because the rest of the arrangement is too hard for me to play and sing. So, in addition to this being a glorious melody and just amazing song, one thing that the songwriter, the lyricist, does is he moves the perspective between the first verse, the second verse, and the last verse. So in the first verse, he's speaking to everybody. Lift every voice and sing until earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty, and so forth. And then in the second verse, it comes inward, and it's like if it was a movie, it's almost like the camera now turns to those behind the door, those in the room, right? So this is a different community, because it says, Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. And then at the end of that verse, it lets you know who he's talking to, because it says, but with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed? Right? So the people being spoken to are those whose weary feet have come over the stony road, who have been beaten by the chastening rod, and whose weary feet have come to the place for which their fathers sighed. So this is a very different audience than the first verse. And it may be the reason this verse is less often performed than the first verse, right? It's just a different audience. And then the third verse is a prayer, right? So God of all weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, and so on. And the whole thing is a prayer to the very end. I stopped right before the end because in my arrangement of this, which I was playing, it just gets too high for me to manage while playing for myself. But if you study the words, it's just this prayer. So it starts by addressing the world, then turns around and addresses those within the community. I always say those behind the door. And then the lens turns up and addresses God. Okay, before I stop, I wanted to make the point that this technique of changing the perspective is not just something you see in classical or classical adjacent music. It's used a lot in pop music. So one example that comes to mind is Audra Day's I'll Rise Up. Not my key, but I'll try it. You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round. Da-da-da. I'm not going to sing the rest of it, but go listen to that song, and you'll notice the verse is speaking to the listener. You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, da-da-da. And then on the chorus is, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. So the chorus turns and becomes about the singer. I'll rise up for you. But anyway, so that's all. Happy listening.